We left off over here yesterday. Just one. I saw it's explained slightly differently. Let's start from Gabay Tzedakah. Okay. It says, the Mishnah says that if a person is a Gabay Tzedakah, they see, and also you don't have to check his pedigree. The daughter of a Gabay Tzedakah. Gemara says, my taimu. Kevin the Ninsu Badi Inchi. That since the Gabay Tzedakah very often he quarrels with the people he tries to collect the money from. Damamar. Memashkin al Tzedakah afil bear of Shabbos. It says that the Gabay Tzedakah goes to collect, even to take collateral for the financial obligations of each individual, even Erev Shabbos, when the person is preoccupied with Shabbos. The Iko Islo Kolo. You know, the halacha is, the Gemara says a Chunin, that, you know, we say that if a person doesn't want to do a mitzvah say, Kofanoso Achetetz in Nafsho. Person is permitted to beat him, says Machlok Shishon, Achetetz means up to the brink of death, or even if he'll die under the whip. Argument, what it means. Achetei is the ad, the lo ad b'chlal, or it's ad v'ad b'chlal. It's an argument in the Rishonim. Okay? But the Gemara says that's only a mitzvah saseh she'ein matan schor mitzido. It's only a mitzvah saseh where the Torah doesn't speak about the reward. But if it's matan schor mitzido, the person wasn't doing that mitzvah saseh, the court does not compel the person. Physically use corporal punishment to force the person to do it. Why? Because since it's man schar b'tzido, the person himself is forfeiting. The punishment is that he's forfeiting the reward that the Torah associates with. Let's say shluch hakan. The person doesn't want to send away the mother bird, right? Or he still could send it. So what do we say? It's man schar b'tzido. It says arichas yomim. So there won't be kofach tzitzit nafsho. Let's say tefillin, sukkah, right? Those are the example. Or tzitzis, where it doesn't say man schar b'tzido, kofanoso achetetzi nafsho. That's the Gemara. So Tosa has a question. The Gemara says above Basa, where it speaks about the loss of tzedakah, it says they would be kofa on tzedakah. So Tosa says it's pasuach tiftach. It says yivrach Hashem. When you give tzedakah, Hashem will bless you. So it's a mitzvah saseh sheman schar b'tzido. So why you kofa on tzedakah? It says they would compel him, and kofa means. So Rabbeinu Tam says kofa means verbal kfiyah. They reprimand him. They would embarrass him, but physical, corporal punishment they would not use. That's one teretz. That's Rabbeinu Tam. There's another answer. He says no, because over there, if it's only an asay by itself, ain't kofim. What about if there's los asay? By tzedakah, there's little tikvots. Those tikvots yotcho. You should not withhold your hand. So that's a lav. When you're in violation of a lav, definitely it's kofim. Okay? So over here it says, Memashkin al tzedakah. They would take a mashkan, they'd force whatever it takes, they would what? So Evie could say, what about if the Gabay Tzedakah would have to actually physically get physical with the person? Maybe not. Mashkan means they would seize the collateral for the obligation. Okay, so that would be kfiyah b'peh. That would be equivalent to that. But if it's something more than that, so the answer, of course, is lo sikvots. Because it says you're not permitted to withhold it. So what would be? So there were words here. There'd be words between the one who the money's being taken from. So if in fact, if the Gabay Tzedakah had any degree of illegitimacy in his pedigree, understand, the person is going to let people know. So if all the quarrelings, we've never heard that issue ever brought up, what does that say? Evidently, he must have a clean slate. His pedigree must be a pure pedigree, because otherwise you would have heard about it. He says, "V'misa diiko." If in fact he would have a defect in his pedigree, islu kolo, word would get out, and so why do we hear about it? It's like very often you ask about someone, so you'd say to them, if you ask around, you'll never hear anybody say a bad word about this man. So what does that say? Evidently he's a good person, right? The same thing. With all the quarrels, nobody ever accused him or said anything regarding his pedigree. So that clearly says his pedigree is perfect. Ushbezichne de Rabada Barava Giurahava. We left off in the middle of this. The host of Rabada Barava, he was a ger. Vave Komidzi Yuv Rabibi. He had a disagreement, a dispute with Rabibi. Marama no avidno siruso. The master says, I will oversee the needs of the community. Marama ano avda sirusa the master. And Rabibi, who was one of the Gedolei Ador, says, I'll oversee it. Reminds me of the man's a ger. He's saying he's going to oversee it. Rabibi says he's going to oversee it. You know, it just reminds me, sometimes you have Bali Tshuva, the person who's tremendous Talmud Chacham. More than that, person becomes a Bal Tshuva, puts on his black suit and his black hat, and his talus over his head. He's already disagreeing with the Rosh Hashiva. You understand? You're the new boy on the block. How do you disagree? What do you mean? No, you and I, let's look in the mirror. Do we look that different? Okay, so I also have right to say something. The man's a ger. Rabibi is we'll see, is the Godel Ador. He's a Gaber Rabbah. The question, who's qualified to... He says, I'm qualified. He says, no, I'm more qualified. I should be the one running the show. I should be... You understand what goes on here? Ostakam Rav Yosef. So what do you have to do? You understand? I understand that. But factually, he's not Rav Bibi. This man is not Rav Bibi. 100% not Rav Bibi. It was interesting. It was known. Rav Aaron Zechet Sarku Brocha. Kotler was the Godel Ador. But... And Reb Shner Kotler was the son of Reb Aaron. Reb Aaron, if it was a question of giving him covet, and somebody was somebody who had a greater pedigree, Reb Aaron's parents were ordinary people. Reb Aaron Kotler's parents were ordinary people. Nothing special. But let's say he had the Satmar Rebbe. He came from a line of what? Of Yichus going back generations. And Reb Aaron understood it. Because Yichus pedigree makes a difference. For Reb Shner, they would give him the greatest covet. Because Reb Shner's father was Reb Aaron. You understand? He had the pedigree already. And that's the way it works. Understand? So they go, but you can't explain something to a person if he doesn't understand. You can only explain it. So they go before Rav Yosef, Osel Kamen Rav Yosef, Amado Tanino. Rav Yosef, we learned in the Mishnah, Som tos melech melech, miker v'achecho, kol mesim shato mesim, lo yeh elam miker v'achecho. Any level of appointmentship in a community, the person has to be a person of what? Of original Jewish origin. And you're not, therefore, Rav Bibi qualifies, you don't qualify. See, he's knocking him out of the box immediately. You don't make the grade. Not because of your capability, because of your pedigree. Amalei Ravada Barabba, so Ravada Barabba who was hosted by this ger. So he says to Rav Yosef, Afilu imam Yisrael. He's not a ger on both sides. Doesn't mean to say even if his mother is Jewish, his father was a ger, but his mother wasn't a Gioris. Amalei, no, imam Yisrael Meker v'achecho Karina Bey. No, if his mother was originally Jewish, an original Jew, he's qualified. He's Meker v'achecho. Now we're back to square one. Who's more qualified? Hilkoch. So therefore, Gemara concludes, Rabibi, the Gaver Rabbahu. Rabibi, who's the great Torah sage, Gaver Rabbo. It's not a term that we use loosely. Here, Gaver Rabbo. Today you have a right. See, Harav Hagoin Hadis. Everybody's Hagoin. Moreno is one thing. Every Hasidic shtibel, everybody's Moreno, right? Moreno, but it's Moreno Hagon. Gaon. Everybody's Gaon. Well, if you pass the age 50, then you're Gaon. Above 50, you're Gaon. I once heard from David Cohn once told me that why were the Gaonim called Gaonim? Because Gaon, Gematria is 60. It corresponds to the 60 Mesechtas in Shas. Since they were fully proficient even at the most extensive level in Kol HaTorah Kula, that's why they're called Gaonim. I heard this from Rav David Cohn. So therefore, okay, so Hagon, what did you learned? What, 25 blot? but I know every Reb Chaim on the plot. Okay, therefore what? What about the do you know Shas? You know, but he's a phenomenal lamda. Okay, so we say regarding the Dorim, you go after Loshem Ne'odom. First makes a net, it's the way people speak, not the way the Torah speaks. Okay, so that's the way we speak today, because you have to. On the bell curve, that's going today. So therefore, la'ayim b'midl d'shmaya, umar la'ayim b'midl d'maso. Rabbi, who's the Gaver Rabba, he should oversee everything that has to do with the spirituality of the community. 1 second. Why did he want to be? No, not because he had to be. He felt somebody had to take care of it. He felt the other person wasn't as qualified as he was. It's like it once said. It says, who is the Bechorah? Who is Yitzchak's Bechorah? Esav. But yet, Yaakov wanted the Bechorah. Right? Now, why did Yaakov want the Bechorah? Why did he want the Bechorah? What did Yaakov want the Bechorah? Because he said, how could such a man be the Kohen? He's a disgrace to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not he wanted it for himself. He didn't want to take it from Esav because he didn't want Esav to have it. Because he was a disgrace. How could this man who says, Odom Azeh, a man who's so out of control, how could he be Hashem, the efficient of Hashem? Therefore, the Mogu Shem Ish, there's no one else, I'll take it. That was Rabbi. There was nobody who was able to fill the position. You don't think he would have preferred to sit and learn all day? He had to be busy with the community, right? The answer is Mogu Shem Ish. You have to come to the plate. You have to fill the position if there's nobody qualified to fill it. So they made a compromise. Mili Dishmai was Rabbi. Marlain b'mili Damaso. Gemara says in Mitzvah and Hazov that it has two psukim. One Gemara says that a man who follows his wife's advice, it's something very positive. And then another statement that Gemara, a person who follows his wife, goes after Divrei Ishto, he's in the Yorish Gehenim. He's going to Gehenim. So how do we reconcile? Here it says it's something you should, and here it says you want to Gehenim. How do we reconcile? Somewhere it says, if it's mili dishmayo, if it's regarding spiritual issues, then you don't follow your wife's advice. It has to do with your personal spirituality. If it has to do with the material regarding the family, then you follow your wife's advice. The domain of the wife is the material. The domain of the husband is the spiritual. That's the difference. We're speaking about where the husband is not where the husband is about truth and the wife has to lead the husband to teach him what he's supposed to do. Okay? We're speaking about the both. They both have backgrounds, but the husband is a different level. Mila Lishmaya, that's his decision. It's interesting. We find is Eza Kenegdo. Take a look at the Chazal. The Chazal said, why is Chava Eza Kenegdo? Samar says, the Medrash says, Odom needs bread. So Odom brings home the wheat. Now who mills it? Who makes the dough? Who bakes the bread? He brings the material, the wool. Who spins the wool to be thread? And who's going to weave the... He says, if Odom's going to be preoccupied with all these chores, Torah Mateola, he's not going to have any time to serve Hashem. So therefore, Eselo Eza Kenegdo. So the wife, she'll attend to all those material issues, and he'll be able to focus on his spirituality. That's Chazal. It's the Medrash. So you see again. So what's the domain of the woman? Mili de Alma. The material. Mili de Shmaya. The Eza Kenegdo, the wife was only created to attend to the material issues. Spiritual issues, for that he doesn't need the wife. That's not the Eza Kenegdo. That's the dynamic of the relationship between husband and wife. That you see from the beginning of Bria, from the beginning of creation. You see this. Omer Abaye, Hilkoch. So after seeing what happened, where Avada Baravo and this Ger, where his mother was an original Jew, Abai says, Hilguch mad de mishri tsumi rabbanu b'shnichne lashri. Lashri karavad barabo. A person who's going to host someone, he should host people like Ravad Barabo. Why? Because he came to the defense of his host. He should, right? If he would have said to Rav Yosef, but his mother's Jewish, therefore it's Kerach, he would have what? This person would have been kept on, wouldn't have been admitted, wouldn't have been given the position. The Yoda lemhepech lebischusei. He knew exactly lemhepech schusei to find merit in the claim of what? Of the host. Reb Zera metapel bu. Reb Zera also. Because we had earlier, I saw the Farshim say, why did he come to the defense of these kinds of people? It says before, the halachas we ruled that a ger is permitted to marry a mamzer. Because we hold, where it said, kal gerim is not kal. Lo yava mamzer b'kal Hashem. So, but if kal gerim is not kal, therefore the ger is permitted to marry a mamzer. So the Gemara said earlier, Reb Zera lectured publicly that a ger is permitted to marry a mamzer. They were upset at him. The gerim, they were all upset at him. So what do you say? What do we like mamzerim? Right? So he had to appease them. He had to make it up to them. So therefore, because originally he offended them, although it's not, that's the halacha. Therefore, he did whatever he can to put them in a more positive light. Whatever he could put them in a positive light, he would put them in a positive light for that reason, to make up for what he had said. Rabbi Ravua metapabu b'marova afil reish kurli no mikmi minayu. Hear this? He says, but in Eretz Yisrael, if a person was a ger, they would not even appoint him to oversee, to run the PX. No, Howard knows what the PX is, right? Nerdo is already chutz loretz. Reish gagurusa lo mukmi minayu. Even reish gargusa. You hear this? What's reish gargusa? Ernie, you may have seen on it already. Reish gargusa means, let's say you had a certain amount of water, and just there's not an abundance. Now the question is, you have people upstream, downstream, who uses the water? So you have to have somebody to oversee who has the right today to take the water to water that field. So the person who oversaw and allocated the water, which day and how much water, that person was called reish gargusa. So even for that position, if he wasn't a person of pedigree, they did not allow him to take that position, because that had some degree of standing in the community. And therefore you need mikerev achecho tosmo alecho. Kol mesim shato mesim. Any appointmentship has to be mikerev achecho. This is like the lowest. This is the most. This is like, a clerk. This is like a clerk at best. In their door. That. Okay. No, just the opposite. Bovel was soulless. Bovel was soulless. Not only that, no, that's much more than that. The Gemara says that Bovel is Eretz Yisrael Legitni. In terms of its spiritual status, in terms of learning, Bovel, Nerdo was like Eretz Yisrael, was more than Eretz Yisrael. So if that's the case, what they maintained there, the level they maintained was civil to Eretz Yisrael.
When we talk about children of Gabriel that are a gear and a Jewish mother?
No. No.
About a double gear.
A full gear. Full gear. You'd say a clerk. What's a clerk? That's something of standing. No. If the mother would be Jewish, wouldn't be an issue. Wouldn't be.
Even though the child is a gear, but they
Correct.
hire them to be Jewish.
Correct. No. It's interesting. I saw the Rishonim say that, what's the halacha? We rule that, like Rabbi Yochanan, Akum ve'eved abba bas Yisrael v'latz kosher. It's a kosher Jew. Now, what's the paternal parentage of such a thing? A non-Jew father is a child from a Jewish woman. Child's a kosher Jew. So what is the parentage on the paternal side? Who's the father? There is no father. Right? So if you have a ger who's the father, is that worse than not having a father? If he's a goy, that's not a defect. It's like he doesn't have a father. So now that he's a ger who's a Jew, that should be worse than not having than a goy. So therefore, that's called mikerev achecha tosem lechem melech. As long as the mother's Jewish, he's considered like a full Jew, and he's qualified for an appointmentship.
So then why is a ger and a ger if the
No, because that's a ger. They're never kahal. You got it. They're never kahal. That's the question. Kahal. They're not kahal. A mother's original, she's kal Hashem. That's the classification of kahal. So if there's no father, he's called kahal. So now if there's a ger, he's not called kahal. If she's a gioris, she's not kahal. Because we'll see the next blot. If you have generations, ger gioris, all the way down the line till the end of time, none of those children can marry a Kohen. Kohen, so for a Kohen. That's something else. We'll see. That's next blood. Because there you have parentage. No, they have parentage. No, it's not has no inheritance. Not do inheritance. Ger and ger also inherit. Ger is also he inherits. No, but it's kahal. No, there's kahal. The parentage, the yichus, he identifies his face called kahal there. Okay, we'll see. It's up. You see from the Gemara, what's his name? Gemara in Yevomis, the discouragement is not in position. First, the person does whatever he wants to discourage him. You realize that now you're free to do what you want. You become a Jew. There's endless liability. I mean, that's what you tell. That's what you tell the goy. No, he just says. But it's not only that. It's not only that. It doesn't say that's why. The yoda lemhapich. No, he says you should have that coin because the yoda lemhapich b'shtusay. No, because he was a Talmud Chacham, so he knows exactly what to say. Not me to connect me to. If factually, if Rav Yosef is saying something which is halachically incorrect, you have an obligation. If you have an obligation to respond to correct the wrong. So he says, if you host somebody, have a Talmud Chacham, because any issue ever comes up, you want a person who's knowledgeable. That's what it means. It has nothing to do with Hakoras HaTov over here. It's not a Hakoras HaTov issue. I was recently in Lakewood a few weeks ago, so I went to Mincha, a certain shul. So there was a young person giving a shiur to other people in Mishnah Berurah. And they were, they one time when you should work with me, he was a Kola person. And I think it was in Erevin. I'm not sure what they were learning in Mishnah Berurah, I don't remember. And they started asking certain questions. And what he was saying to them was he was telling them a halacha which is incorrect, but whatever he said to them wasn't right. Wasn't right. I'm just sitting in the back, waiting to daven mincha, and I didn't say a word. And they asked him other things. I saw whatever he said wasn't right. I wasn't going to, interject there to say, what, put my 2 cents in there. I wasn't going to say anything. Just listen. But I saw, what was going on over there. It was like almost the blind leading the blind. They wanted to know. They asked questions. It was a question which needs an answer, just factual questions. And he wasn't responding correctly to them. Rav Yosef Ma'afi Shohoyo. So there's a question. A person who was either who was registered to be a dayan, the Rambam, that's Rashi. The Rambam says somebody who's registered to be an aid, to be a witness. You need qualified witnesses. So people registered that when they needed witnesses, they would call those people to be the witnesses. My time in Daikim Chasmi. because they were evaluated before they would sign. Rav Chani ben Atignus, Omer Rav Yehuda, it says a person was bistacha shel melech. To qualify to be in the army of David HaMelech, you had to be a person of pedigree. If you weren't a person of yichus, they did not admit you into the army. Why? Talking about, go to what's it called? Down in where's it? North Carolina, South Carolina. No, not West Point. No, the Marine, whatever it is. Yeah. Omer Rav Yehuda Mishmur b'chayil shel beis David. When it says the stature shel melech, the rotation of the melech, we're speaking about chayolo shel beis David. Right, the soldiers. Omer Rav Yosef Mikro. Well, what's the basis? You have yichus. So it says in the pasuk, this yachsom b'tzvah melech. You hear this? They had to be established with their pedigree regarding the army for war. B'tzvah milchama. You had to have yichus. You had to be miyachas them. But time of my, I mean, if a person, he's trained in martial arts and this and that. He's a ranger, sharpshooter. Wasn't that right? Special forces. What does he have to be about yichus? Right? Oliver North. Right? What was his yichus? Right? Amr Yudam Rav Kadesh Schusa Nuschusa Vosim Seyata. When you go to battle, it's not simple. You need the schus of the person, you need schus ovus. So if the person is a pedigree, that's schus ovus. That's schus avosim seyatam. It's interesting. Wait a second. You want to second guess the Gemara? The Gemara is going to ask the question. That's called recall from a subconscious level. Okay. Okay. The deschus and the schus of the ovos. Now you're able to understand. Very interesting. To be able to merit Torah is siyata dishmaya. Right. So let's say a person is a miyuchas. So many things why do we succeed in life? Because we have our schus and we have schus ovos. Right. Like I always say. Today, any person who's an observant Jew, use the word observant, not religious Jew, observant Jew. Despite the influences of the world, you're an observant Jew, it's equivalent of a miracle today. With all the influences. So why? The answer is, schus ovos. You can't say, well, it's me. It's not you. Saying it's you is arrogance. It's arrogance. Who do you think you are? The answer is in the background. You had a special grandfather, a special grandmother, a special parent. They did something in their lives, and the schus of that's why, despite everything, you have a siyata dishmaya. That's schus ovos. Otherwise, it's not possible. Like we still with the Chazon Ish, that if you remember, even in the 60s, 70s, the Israelis who worked on the kibbutzim, especially they wore a certain type of hat in the orange groves when they picked the oranges. It was called the temba hat. Kovet Temba. Remember those hats they used to wear? Okay? So today they closed up the kibbutzim, so it doesn't make a difference. Okay? So today they export oranges to China, and they import everything else from China. Okay? So so they had all of a sudden in Bnei Brak in the early 50s, late 40s, a group of teenagers show up in Bnei Brak with shorts rolled up, sleeves rolled up, with temba hats, and they come into the Beis Medrash, and they say, we want to study Torah. These kids came from a Shomat To'ir, an atheistic kibbutz. They look at these kids, they almost didn't pay attention to them. Didn't pay attention. You're going to study Torah. No background. You don't even know. We're talking about, there's nothing, there's not a trace of, other than reading Hebrew, you know nothing. So they went to ask the Chazon Ish. What should they do? Should they set up a special curriculum for these boys? So the Chazon Ish, he says it's unbelievable. He says the grandparents of these boys, who are they? They're religious Jews. What happened with communism? Before communism, you had all the isms in Europe. People who came from the most observant families The children, they broke. And they became part of the movement, and they gave it all up. So what did the parents do? They went to the shul. They opened up their own kodesh. They shed tears, unlimited amount of tears. Their hearts were torn for what happened to their children. But he says, HaKadosh, no tear goes wasted. These children are the fruits of those tears. That's what the Chazon Ish says. Therefore, we set up a curriculum for these children. Right? So that's what we call chosavos. Understand? There was a famous story. The Chazon Ish, when he came to Eretz Yisrael, I think it was 1934, so he still had a mother. His father passed away. So his mother came, and he gave tremendous respect. The Chazon Ish always had very frail health. Very. And his mother lived with one of his sisters, and he would, besides the way he valued the time for his Torah, but when it came to Kibbut Aim, he would walk and visit his mother very often. And then after his mother passed away, his mother had a tilim. And the Chazon Ish was not a sentimental person. Everything was halacha, and that was it. Began with halacha and ended with halacha. And this tilim, that was mother's tilim, he valued it tremendously. And he would say tilim from his mother's tilim. What is an attachment? Does it make a difference? Is this tilim, that tilim? So they asked him, what's so special about the tilim? It was meant there for what? He says, I became Robeka. He says, do you think it just happened by itself? He says, if you open this tilim, he says, do you know how many tears my mother shed on this tilim that her son should be a Talmud Chacham? He says, that's why this tilim is special to me. That's what the Chazon Ish said. Understand? That's why if you were Chayol Shel David, it's not only your schus, it's schus chavosim misayatam. You need the schus avos also. Somewhere asks a question, V'yiko, in Divrei Yomim, in Shmuel, the Busik, it says, V'yika tzalaka Amoni, he was one of the generals in David's army. So he was an Ammoni, an Ammonite. My love, Dosi mi Ammon. Seemingly he was called Ammoni because he came from Ammon. He was an Ammonite. Lo di Yosem Ammon. Because he lived in Ammon, he himself was a full Jew. It's only because that's the area, the region he lived in. Aviko Uriah Chiti, famous story. Uriah Chiti. So Chiti, it's one of the nations of Canaan. My love, Dosi Miches, Lo, the Yosem Miches. He lived in Ches. He lived in that region. Avika Iti Agiti. Itai Agiti, he was a goy. He was called Gita because he came from Gat. Gat was the Philistine territory. Omar of Nachman Osi Giti Bol Botlo. The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah. Now it's interesting. Shaila halacha lulav agozel, stolen lulav disposal. Lulav shelat ashero. It was worshipped a certain type. A lulav that's worshipped, disposal. Okay, so Tosas has a question. What about a lulav that was worshipped by a goy, and the goy was mevatel it? The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah that a non-Jew, if something which is idolatry, is not permitted to benefit from. So no. What about you come upon an idol that was broken? It was broken. Why was it broken? Because the goy, he worshipped it. When he saw that the idol didn't respond, he took it, smashed it. So if he smashed, that's called bittul. He negated it. Originally he valued it. He negated it. Once he negates it, it returns to an ordinary status. So the halacha is avodah zarah shel Yisrael. If it was a Jew, let's say a goy has an avodah zarah and the Jew does an act of acquisition on his konet. The moment he's konet, that it cannot be negated, not by anybody. That forever it's Yisrael. No, it has to be destroyed. But if it's shel akum, then it's what? So there was a certain crown that they kept on the idol, which was part of the idolatry. If David would have acquired it, it would be avodah zarah shel Yisrael. So this Ite Agiti, he was a goy, and he negated it, so David should be able to benefit from it. Yeah? So clear, he was a goy. So, and he was what? He was one of the soldiers in David's army. But if we're saying that what, you have to be, it's Chayil Shabis David, that you have to be a person of benefit because Schus Avosim Seyaton, there's no Schus Avos here. So how did he qualify to be conscripted in David's army? That's the first question. So there's an argument when it was saying about lulav. There's a question: what about if a goy had a lulav? He worshipped it, then he was mevatel it, negated it. Could you use it for the mitzvah lulav? It's a machlokus. It's a machlokus. Ravinu Tam and the Re. Why? Because factually, even though monetarily speaking, there's nothing wrong with it, but factually, it's already tainted. It's not appropriate. Something that at one time was used for avodah zarah, it's not appropriate. Therefore, it's not. You shouldn't be yotze with it. It's like hakrivein or the falsefa. Certain things. There's a case discussed in Shulchan Aruch, which based on the Gemara that they found a rat in a barrel of oil, and there was shishim, and it's no stam lefgam. It's no stam lefgam. So eating wise, every wise, nothing wrong. Could you use that oil to light neros in the Beis HaKnesses? So it's ruled. You shouldn't. That kind of oil, if you'd be a prince or a king, would you bring that as a gift to a king or a prince? It's inappropriate. Same thing. Therefore, you cannot use it for hadlokas neros in the Beis HaKnesses. So the same thing. No, it's more than a zekel veu. It's a negative. Zekel veu is an enhancement. That's an endearment. This is a negative. Yeah, zekel veu is not. It's ordinary. You should do more than ordinary. This is less than ordinary.